Cease fire does not mean peace. Peace means peace. Peace is what happens when you have an end to war. Ceasefire is what you have happen when the side that are winning stop shooting the guys that are losing. And then what you hope is that a ceasefire will lead to a peace. But that isn't what's going to happen here. As we know, or most of us know, if we're not stupid, easily led morons, we know Hamas is going to now use this ceasefire time to refill their rifles, motivate some new young children to pick up those rifles and get ready for another attack on Israel. How do we know this is going to happen? Because we know we have their life guidebook here, the Quran of the Muslims. I've done like 200 videos or something like that explaining every word of this, both in Arabic, the direct Arabic translation, the one they teach in the mosque, and also Quran.com Hafiz English novelization, you know, the prettied up version. It doesn't matter which one you use. They both say the same thing. Islam requires everybody to worship Allah, and everyone who refuses to worship Allah, who doesn't surrender to the will of Allah, to be murdered by those who do. And they want to set up a caliphate, which is the kingdom of Allah, the Islamic state, in Jerusalem, and then spread out to all other nations. So how do you figure that a 3-week ceasefire is going to stop all that when they've been doing it for 250 years and counting, and they have never ever stopped? It's madness. That's what it is. If it's not ignorance, it's malice. And if it's not ignorance and malice, it is madness. Here's what's actually going to happen. In 3 weeks' time, Hamas will attack from Gaza. They will attack Israel again, but this time Israel will be expecting it, and so will their allies, Britain, America, and some others. And this will be the final ceasefire that we offer them. The terrorists, I mean. They're not going to get another one. So their last bargaining chip, the reason why they were allowed to carry on is because they had hostages. Now they don't have hostages anymore. So they're going to amass their forces, and they are going to concentrate on attacking one area, that is Tel Aviv. And it's going to be a last stand for them, so it's going to be a very bloodthirsty, violent and short conflict, which they will lose. And when they lose and they all are wiped out, guess what's going to happen then? You think Israel are going to declare a victory and that'll be the end of the war? Or do you think maybe they'll lose and Hamas will declare victory? No, look, nobody is declaring victory in this war. That is very obvious. There is only one victory condition that could possibly be reached with this in mind, and that is either all of these guys getting killed or these guys killing everybody else. That's the condition for victory. There is no other condition for victory. Not because I don't want there to be, or because you don't think there should be, because of this, the Quran. This is what the Muslims are using as their vision of the future, because Allah hath commanded it. And they don't have any free will to change their minds. They can't mediate or update their book. And their entire culture comes out of that book. So we know the only way this war will ever end is if Hamas are conclusively defeated, deleted, buried, dead, all of them, or they manage to wipe out Israel, then everybody else who is a non-Muslim. So, which one of those do you think is more likely? Do you think it's likely that Hamas, a little tiny ragtag bunch of terrorists supported by a few poisoned Islamic countries, are going to wipe out the rest of the world? Or do you think the rest of the world are going to run out of patience and smash the terrorists every single one, and wipe them out for good, and then put a law in place saying if we see any of this in future, we won't wait for them to get a country. We won't wait for them to build up resources. We will not wait for them to have negotiations with the UN and pretend that they're going to be peaceful. We will immediately smash them so there can be no more terrorism, hostages, or wars in the Middle East. Do you think maybe that is what we might see? Just based on logic. I do. That's exactly what I intend to say and exactly what I expect to see. In the next 3 weeks, the ceasefire will end. Hamas will attack Israel. Israel will retaliate. And whereas in the past, the rest of the world have supported poor old Palestine, I think we have seen enough evidence, certainly in the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been more added. And over the next 2-3 weeks, we will see even more good, solid evidence that any reasonable, moral person will take on board this time, that Hamas and Hezbollah, Syria, Iran, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Gaza have no intention of peace whatsoever, and they never did. For them, the religion of peace, their version of peace, means Allah ruling the world, everyone being a Muslim or dead. So that's their peace. Our peace is every country that is a sovereign nation gets to be peaceful and have allies and have trade and have their own religions or secular groups, whatever. There's democracy and there's free speech. And those countries and groups that threaten that, i.e. these guys, need to be beheaded. Not individually, as in the organisation of the Islamic State needs to be beheaded. Cut the head off the snake is how the IDF like to say it. So, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again to conclude this video in summary. A time is soon to come where you personally will have to make the choice. Do you support these guys, Satan or Allah, whichever name that you think he should have, and his mission to wipe out the entire world and have it dominated by Islam and only Muslims live upon it? Or are you going to choose the side that opposes that, which I say is the side of God, moral, decent people, peace, freedom and safety? Because you are going to have to make that decision. You will have to. It doesn't matter whether you think it's right or whether you want to. We're talking about the power players in the world here. Guys that run countries. Guys that own nations. Millions of guys in militaries at the command of one man like Donald Trump. As soon as he gets involved in this, this is over for Islam. And I can't wait, because I am sick to death of seeing wars, hostages, trade routes being interrupted, poverty, economies crashing. I'm sick of seeing propaganda. I'm sick of seeing social unrest. All of this stuff is caused on purpose by these guys, as per the instructions given by Allah. What good does it do? What benefits does it bring you or I or anyone? Even the Muslims don't get any benefit from it. The only reason they do that stuff is because they are heavily brainwashed into it, and they think in their brainwashed, propagandized view that that is going to get them peace. That's what they want. Normal Islam guys, Arabic guys and their families, they want peace deep down, but they're brainwashed into thinking that we are the ones stopping them from getting that peace. Which is why they need to kill us all. And they won't. They will die. It's a simple fact of the matter. I don't like it any more than you do, but let's be realistic. They are a small band of cultists driven by an insane, evil religion and a false god into acts of war against nations who have done them no harm, and they use rape and torture and poverty as weapons of propaganda against their own people, so that their own people will be more willing to kill you and I and our families because we won't worship Allah. It's a suicide mission, and it always was. So it will get them nowhere apart from sent to hell, dead, And the sooner this can happen, the better for everybody else. So we can get back to our normal lives, inventing things, growing the economy, having allied countries socially friendly towards each other, having travel, not having propaganda, not losing out on our free speech, and not having our politics infested and ruined by hypocrites, thieves and liars on the payroll of commies and Muslims. Because I am sick of it. And it has to come to an end, and it will come to an end. So like I say, make the choice. Do you back Satan or do you back God and good people? Because if you don't make the choice now, when the choice is forced upon you, you will panic and you may make the wrong decision. So make it now. Make it well. Then we can all go back to our lives. No more children of any kind need to die or be converted into child soldiers for these crazy cultists, these maniacs. Because it's not fair. It's not fair. Have you ever noticed why, when the Palestine parade are saying, Israel bombed 500 children, why they find 500 rifles on the bodies of those 500 children? Or why the 500 children are covered in cloth linen bin liners from head to toe, so you can't tell that they're children until you are picking their bodies off the battlefield? Do you ever wonder why that happens? Why when Israeli soldiers die, they're of age? Why when American or British soldiers die, they're of age? But when Palestinian soldiers die, they are always children. Why do these guys only send children with guns to the battlefield? Why don't the old men go? Why don't the guys my age go? Because they know it's a suicide mission and they don't want to die. It's absolutely 100% evil. And that means God will make sure it is crushed flat soon. So make the choice. Do you support these guys sending their kids to die on account of propaganda so that a few guys at the top can spread this lie that they know isn't true, that Allah's going to one day rule the world and we'll all be dead? Or do you want these guys to end that war, which they will not be willing to do, which means they have to die? And no one else has got the balls to actually say this. This is common knowledge. The news and media know this, the politicians know this, the military generals know this, presidents, prime ministers, priests even know this. And the only people who are too slow on the uptake to figure it out are people who watch things like the BBC or Al Jazeera or RT or read Twitter and have Elon Musk telling them what the news is. Those guys are in a cardboard tube looking at one piece of news which has been spread to 1,000 Twitter handles. So they think that's all the news there is. That is propaganda. And how do we know this? Well, because we can read. No one does. No one's got the slightest idea what is going on because they don't know how to pick up true information and they don't have the wisdom to figure it out on their own. Well, allow me. I have done near to 200 videos in a series called Without Lies, Islam Dies, in which I break down every single word and verse of the Quran, every single idea and concept in the Quran. I've compared it to real life happenings, history, current affairs, geopolitical happenings, archaeology, the lot. So if you can't be bothered to watch those, or you haven't already, then you will be behind the curve, because many of us have. Like, it wouldn't have got to 200 episodes if it wasn't hugely popular. If people weren't absorbing that content, then checking it with their own book like I tell them to do. I always say, if you don't believe me, buy it and read it yourself. And the people that do, they know. So if that isn't you, I suggest you get off your bike and you pick up one of these and read it, and you pick up one of these and read it. And if you really can't be bothered, then I have done the hard work for you. Watch Without Lies, Islam Dies, from episode 1 to episode 163, or whatever it is we're currently on, including the 50 additional episodes, which are actually about what's happened in the news and are not about the scripture. For instance, the rape gangs, victim testimonies, news about that, facts that you are not shown by BBC, RT, these propagandized guys, things that Twitter will hide from you, and the link with Chinese communism and North Korea, who are helping Russia to fund the war in Israel against Western powers because they don't like the competition. So in summary, choose your side and choose them now, choose them well, and be loyal to that choice, because in the end, if you don't, you will suffer, and I don't want that to happen. Alright, so that's the end of this video. God bless you all. Have a lovely evening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Oh, I suppose they've got a good excuse. They were too busy being distracted by the sound of the wind rushing between that space between their ears. Like, come on, figure it out, guys. This is not the end of war, unfortunately. So anyway, that's all for now. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.